What is up, all you literary femmes and gents? It is your girl Deja, and I am back with a brand new video on my channel. So I just want to preface this video by saying I apologize if it seems like I'm very low energy. It's been a very trying day, but I told myself you have to get this video filmed in order to give people enough time to decide whether or not they want to get these books. So I'm here. I said I was going to do this video, and I'm doing this video. So for those of you who may or may not know, I and the three other ladies who I run my book club with, which is Rhiannon from Christmas Reads, Dana from Waitlisted at Hogwarts, and Morgan over at Morgie Reads, we have a book club called the Hot Mess Book Club. And we decided to do a readathon, which is going from March 24th to April 2nd. And we're calling it the Hot Mess Readathon Spring Edition. So I'm going to put a link down in the description box below, or try to figure out how to use that little eye icon. I'm not sure which side it's going to be on. And for the link to the announcement video, as well as to the other host announcement videos, because like I said, we already kind of gave the general information. So yeah. During my announcement video, I did say I was going to be giving out some recommendations for the prompts that we had, because some of them were a little bit, you know, tough, and I actually had to go out and do some research and find books that I thought were interesting that I think that you guys might like. So the three prompts I'm going to be giving you guys recommendations for are books with trans main characters, books that smash the girl on girl hate trope, and then books that depict mental illness besides depression and anxiety. And I will also say that I try to do my best to find a variety. Some of these are memoirs, some of these are contemporary, some of them are YA, fantasy, sci-fi. I try to find a wide variety of books because I know that not everybody who watches BookTube likes YA. So hopefully I did a pretty okay job when it comes to making this list. I don't want this video to be too long, so without further ado, let's just jump straight into this. So I have my notes that I made for myself here, and so first we're going to start with trans representation. So the first book is Beautiful Music for Ugly Children by Kristen Conn Mills. Like, you guys already know how I am with names, so like, don't judge me. So this book is about a young boy named Gabe who was actually born Elizabeth, and basically how he finally decides how he's no longer gonna live his life based off of, you know, like social norms. He's gonna live how he pleases. It does contain music elements because Gabe is a DJ. And I also want to say that I've never read any of these books, so I'm just giving you really short descriptions because there's about like 20 something on this list between like 3 different categories. Next is Whipping Girl by Julia Serrano. So this book is actually a memoir, and it kind of speaks from the perspective of a male transitioning into a female, and kind of their take on feminism as well as certain aspects that they realize when it comes to like the things that you experience as a male versus the things you experience as a female, the process of transitioning. And I've heard a lot of great reviews when it comes to this book. Like I said, it is an own voices book. The author, they're basically just talking about their own experience when it came to transitioning. So the next 2 books go together because the 2 authors actually dated each other and decided to write books based off of their experience. One was a trans male and the other was a trans female. The first book is Some Assembly Required by Aaron Andrews, and the book talks about his process of transitioning while in high school, as well as some of the elements that kind of pushed him to start transitioning, and how his relationship with Katie kind of developed and how that impacted how his high school experience. Which leads me to the second book, which is Rethinking Normal by Katie Rain Hills. Katie dated Aaron, and her book is basically the same. How she felt when she was transitioning through high school, how it kind of impacted her relationship with her family, and then also some of the elements that kind of pushed her to actually go through the transition, as well as her relationship with Aaron. And I thought that these 2 books were pretty interesting because it's from the perspective of a trans male and a trans female who dated each other, and kind of how that like helped them. And I was like, both of them have been added to my TBR. I will get to these eventually, but for now those are not the 2 books that I chose for that challenge for the readathon. The next book is When the Moon Was Ours by Anna Marie McLemore, one of those. It is about Meal and Sam. Meal can grow roses out of her wrist, and Sam paints moons and hangs them from his tree. And it is a very fantastical realism / fantasy novel. I say fantastical realism because of the way that it was described, but it's categorized as fantasy. Sorry, my battery died and I had to replace it, so if the angle is a little bit different, I'm sorry. But going back, the book is about Meal and Sam and how Sam's ability to paint moons and hang them from trees is envied by these 4 sisters who will do anything to exploit Meal and her secrets and Sam's secrets in order to gain their ability. And it sounds like something that would be really beautiful if told correctly, so I was like, this sounds like something really cool. Next is Dreadnought by April Daniels. So this is a superhero book. The only superhero book that I own is Renegades. So the book is about Danny and how she is traveling somewhere one day, and the Dreadnought, which is I guess it's a superhero or other real being, kind of crashes in front of her and dies, and gives her this ability, and it kind of changes, what they say in the description, changes her body into what she's always wanted to be, and she's also gains these superpowers. So not only does she have to deal with, you know, suddenly having like very feminine features, but also her place amongst the superheroes who are like, okay, where does she fit? And then as well as trying to defeat the supervillain Utopia, who's the one who actually killed Dreadnought in the first place. So again, I added this book to my TBR because it sounds super, super interesting. The next book is called Chameleon Moon by Roanna Silver. Now this one, I read the description and I was just like, oh my god, this is amazing. So the book revolves around multiple characters, but our 2 main characters are Reagan and Evelyn. Reagan is a reptile. That's the best way I can describe him, is that he's a reptile. And Evelyn is a rock star, and they both live in the town of Parole, I'm not sure how you say that. I say Parole because it just sounds cooler. And this town has been quarantined off, and the people who live in the town have developed, some of them have developed these special abilities. For instance, Reagan can kind of disappear into thin air, and I'm not sure what Evelyn's ability is. They didn't really specify on that. And basically one day Reagan is basically commissioned by a ghost to kill the host of this bar. But when, you know, things kind of go to crap, the ghost takes his memories, and you kind of start from there, and that's how Evelyn and Reagan meet each other, and they kind of go through this thing where Reagan has to relearn all the rules when it comes to parole, as well as the secrets that he was hiding, or because apparently he was involved with some stuff before he took his memories, and get his memories back from the ghost that stole them. So that is all that I have for trans main characters. Now we are going to move on to the next challenge, which is to read a book which smashes the girl on girl hate trope. The first book is Vivian vs. the Apocalypse by Katie Coyle. Is it Katie? Yes, by Katie Coyle. So the book revolves around a girl named Vivian, who goes by Viv, who grew up in a very religious home, who basically her church was telling her how she has to get her life straight because the rapture is coming. And she comes home one day only to find that her parents are gone, and there's these giant holes in the roof, and supposedly the rapture has occurred. Right, but Vivian, you know, not really being like a super religious person herself, was like, I'm just going to carry on life as normal until she gets some type of clue that her parents might be alive. So she travels across the country with these 2 other people, Peter, who says that he knows where the church has gone, and Eddie, who is, Edie? Is her name Edie or Eddie? I don't know how to pronounce her name. It's E-D-I-E, so I'm going to say her name is Edie, because, you know, I just automatically think Eddie, and I'm like, Ed and Eddie. Anyways, and Edie, who is a churchgoer herself, and she's also pregnant. So together the three of them travel across the country to find out, did the rapture actually happen, or is this some type of giant conspiracy? This is a contemporary novel, and this one was kind of interesting because it does have like some spiritual elements in it, but it's not like the main focus of the story. So I was kind of curious to see how the author was going to take this. So this one has definitely been added to my TBR as well. The next book is Daughter of Smoke and Bone by Laini Taylor. So this book revolves around a girl named Caro. Now, I don't really know a lot about this book. I know it revolves around a girl named Caro and another girl named Akiva, and they start out not liking each other at the beginning of the book, but from the reviews that I've read and the reviews that I've watched here on BookTube, these two females really go to the ends of the earth for each other, and it is a really good female friendship. So that's why I added this one to my list. Like I said, I don't actually know a lot about this book because even the description is kind of a little sketchy. Like I said, I don't really know a lot about this book, but I would definitely check it out because the description does sound interesting. The next book is Fangirl by Rainbow Rap. Now, while the premise of this book is about a girl who does write fan fiction and her relationship with a boy, there is a really close friendship that does happen between the main character and another female in the story. Again, I try to stay away. I stayed away from like reviews for this book because I really want to read it and I really don't want to have anything spoiled. But for the sake of the research that I did, there is a really good female relationship that does occur between the main character and some of the other females that appear in the book. So I would definitely check it out. And plus, Rainbow Rowell is just like a phenomenal author. So yeah, definitely go read it. Next is Iron Cast by Destiny Soria. This will never change. Me and names just don't go well together. So the story revolves around two girls named Ada and Corinne who can weave illusions with magic. Now this book does take place in the early 1900s, if I do believe so. It takes place in 1919. And during one of their shows, however, or something happens and Ada ends up in prison. And Corinne basically has to exonerate her from the crimes that she's been that she's been accused of committing. And again, this is another book that really shows the true friendship between two females, because I have a best friend, and if she ever went down for a crime that I knew she didn't commit, I'd be mad. I'd be Sherlock Holmes on everything. I'd be like, I got you. Give me like 5 hours. You'll be out in no time. I don't know about no 5 hours though, but yeah, I'd get her out of jail. And the last book on this list is Remix by Non Pratt. I'm gonna go with Non Pratt on this one. So literally all I know about this book is that it revolves around two females, Kaz and Ruby. Kaz has been dumped by what she thought was the love of her life. Ruby's kind of bored with life, and they decide to go to a music festival and just make it the time of their lives. And they go through a lot of like inner awakening, I guess, at this music festival. So the cover is what kind of like got my attention, because you know, if you go on like Goodreads and you look up a book and they give you like recommendations over on the right, when I was looking up books to like, you know, smash the girl on girl trope, I saw the cover and I was just like, this looks interesting. It's like this black girl with an afro and she has her hands up, and then there's another blonde girl and then she has her hands up, and then just like the shadows of other people, and the way that the cover was kind of like pixelated, or not pixelated, like almost like mosaic or textured, and it really just caught my attention. And then I kind of did, like I said, did some more research, and I was like, oh shoot, this book falls in the category of books that I'm looking for. So just based off of the cover alone and the fact that it just sounds like they have like a heck of a good time, this is another book that I'm recommending to you guys. And finally, the last category of books I'm going to be giving you is mental illness besides anxiety and depression. And I just want to put out there, I just want to say thank you to everybody who were understanding of why we said besides those those two elements, because we're not saying that they're invalid, but we do want people to kind of branch out and kind of read about other mental illnesses because they're just as important as depression and anxiety. So thank you guys so much for being understanding of why we specifically said that. So the first book under this category is These Gentle Wounds by Helen Dunbar. So the book revolves around a young Gordy Allen who is suffering from PTSD, and he's living with his brother Kevin, and he's kind of trying to get his life back together, and things seem to be going well. He's met a girl who he has trusted with his secret. Her name is Sarah, and things seem to be going well until his father comes back into the picture and tells him, I want to try to be a part of your life. So Gordy kind of goes through this transformation of trying to keep the progress that he's made, while at the same time trying to establish what type of relationship he wants to have with his father. The next book is Highly Illogical Behavior by John Corey Whaley. So Solomon is 16 years old and he suffers from agoraphobia, which if you don't know what that means, it means like a fear of the outside world or things that could happen if you were to like leave your house. And so he hasn't left his house in 3 years, and here comes Lisa and her boyfriend Clark. If my memory is correct, Lisa is doing some type of study on people with mental illnesses, or specifically agoraphobia, and that's how she meets Solomon. She tries to get him to, you know, leave the house or kind of talk about and discuss his issues, and it kind of turns into a friendship or maybe something more. And it's okay, let's just say that I did read some spoilers for this book, and I was like, what? So like this book, like I said, this is another book that I've added to my TBR. This is why I don't research books, because then I fall in love with them and then I'm like, I want to read them. But as you can see, there's like no room left on my bookshelf. Like there's books upon books stacked up there because there's no room left. But books are so good. Next is a book called Made You Up by Francesca Zappia. I really hope I said that name right. I need to start researching how to pronounce these names, or just stop apologizing for it. If I mispronounce the name from this point on, I'm just gonna roll with it. So the book revolves around a girl named Alex who suffers from schizophrenia, and sometimes she has a hard time figuring out if things are real or not. So she carries around a magic 8-ball, and she carries around a camera, where she uses both of those to kind of decide if things are real. And things are kind of, you know, going okay until she gets to college and she runs into this guy named Miles, and she has to figure out, is Miles real, because she thought she had made him up as a child. And then she kind of like starts having, you know, the normal college experience, and she kind of starts having issues because she's used to everything kind of being hard and complicated because of her schizophrenia, and now she's finding things even more hard when things are going normally for her. So this is definitely another book that I have added to my TBR, because I've never read a book from the perspective of somebody who has schizophrenia. I've read books about PTSD, I've read books about depression, anxiety, I think I read a comic about DID, the dissociative identity disorder, but I've never read a book with a main character that has schizophrenia or agoraphobia for the last book. So those two have definitely been added to my TBR, because, you know, you learn about these things through exposure. I don't know anybody with these mental illnesses, so the next best thing is books. And the last book that I have for you guys is I Am Not a Serial Killer by Dan Wells. So this book is about John Wayne Cleaver, who is a diagnosed sociopath, and he kind of navigates his life by knowing that and kind of making rules for himself. So one of the things that he finds normal is just like dead bodies, but when a dead body shows up outside of the laundromat that he goes to, he knows that it's different. different, and a serial killer has come to his town. So now he is indirectly or directly, don't quote me on that, involved in this mystery, in this case, to solve these crimes and to catch a serial killer. And he kind of has to navigate this fine line between knowing, being able to identify with the serial killer and be able to find him, and kind of having the same urges as that serial killer. Again, this is another book I've never read. I've read a fan fiction from the perspective of a guy that was a diagnosed sociopath, but fan fiction is, you know, fan fiction. But I've never actually read a book with a character that has been a diagnosed sociopath. So this is another book that I have added to my TBR. I just realized that because all of these books, I don't have any of them, it's going to be a lot of editing to do for this video. But it's okay. You guys are worth it, and I love you guys. So I really hope that this was helpful, that it gave you some ideas, and that if you do look up these books, it kind of leads you to other ones, and that the exposure that you guys get from reading these different and diverse novels kind of adds a little more color into your life, because that is the purpose of us giving you some of the prompts, is to kind of just add a little more diversity to your reading. So that is all I have for you guys. Thank you so much. I'm so sorry that the lighting has drastically changed from the beginning of this video to now. It's like 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and so like the light is just slowly like coming down, and now it's like shining all on my face. I look like Laurent from Twilight, like just super pale, like I'm a vampire, and I'm sorry. So don't forget, I really want to know what you guys are reading. If you guys are going to be posting TBRs, whether it be on Instagram or Twitter or here on BookTube, if you have a channel, don't forget to tag me and the other hosts for the book club, or tag us on our social media, which is going to be all down in the description box below, because we really want to know that you got what you guys are reading, and if you guys are going to be participating, and also spread the word, because like the more the merrier. So that is all I have for you guys. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to my channel for more content from moi, and I will see you guys in the next video.